Often, when Friends comes under fire for its messy history with queerness, fans and advocates point to the way the show was received upon its arrival in the mid-90s. Commenting on the show's one-night revival in 2016 for the Chicago Tribune, Bethonie Butler opined that riting Friends office homophobic ignores the inclusion of Ross' ex-wife Carol and her partner, Susan, two supporting characters who helped propel the show to 2 GLAAD Media Award nominations and 1 win for Outstanding Comedy Series. It's certainly true that any semi-respectful portrayal of lesbian love in 1990s television was rare at best, but that doesn't mean Susan and Carol's plotline was good. As supporting characters, their relationship is constructed primarily to make Ross uncomfortable and emasculated by appearing to trump his fragile masculinity. Ross unsuccessfully bids to attach his last name to theirs when naming their child in the one with the sonogram at the end, and reflects glumly that he should have known Carol was gay because she drank beer straight from the can in the series pilot, the one where Monica gets a roommate. Even when Ross and Susan bond in the one with the lesbian wedding, it's with a dig at Ross's masculinity, as Susan asks him to dance with the tongue-in-cheek offer, "I'll let you lead." Outside of their relationship with Ross, neither character is especially well defined. Of course, Susan and Carol, or more accurately, Ross and his own hang-ups, are far from the worst source of queerphobia in Friends. That dubious honor belongs to the soulless sarcasm peddler Chandler, and how he treats his father. Throughout the series, Chandler expresses mortification at having a gay dad, as Charles's coming out not only ended Chandler's parents' marriage, but led to embarrassment from his schoolyard peers, embarrassment that continues into adulthood, as the Friends cast routinely roasts Chandler on this topic. 3 seasons before Chandler's father plays a speaking role, he is already a punchline, in the one with the embryos, which the AV Club called one of the best half hours the sitcom format ever produced. The fact that Chandler's father performs in a Las Vegas burlesque review called Viva Las Vegas is played for laughs when the gang constructs a quiz show about how well they know one another. I put scare quotes around gay dad and he in the preceding paragraph because Charles Bing's gender identity is mangled throughout the series by a team of writers with only the shallowest understanding of how trans and drag culture overlap. Though Charles is referred to as a gay male drag queen and burlesque performer, the character's few on-screen appearances in Friends' 7th season seem to indicate she is actually a transgender woman, given that she apparently presents as female 24/7 and is implied to have done so for years. This is a pretty safe assumption to make, given that series co-creator Marta Kaufman told Butler as much for her Tribune review. There's more textual evidence, too. When Chandler and Monica travel to see Viva Las Vegas, in the one with Chandler's dad, they're waited on by a visibly trans waitress played by Alexis Arquette, who doesn't appear fond of Monica's cutesy bumbling over her pronouns. If we assume that Chandler's father is a trans woman and not a cis drag queen, it becomes all the more apparent that she is a walking punchline. Chandler, we discover in the one with Chandler's dad, has been actively avoiding a relationship with his father for years, even ghosting her when she traveled to Manhattan seeking reconciliation. Despite this cruelty and emotional manipulation, Chandler offers her no apology, if she even has a name besides Charles, or her objectively excellent drag name, Helena Handbasket, which I'll use from here on. Viewers never learn it, the better to aggressively misgender her in the one with Chandler and Monica's Wedding Part 1. Upon cresting the threshold at the rehearsal dinner, Helena is immediately subjected to a barrage of dead naming and implicit misgendering from her ex-wife and son, including Mrs. Bing's truly reprehensible line, "Don't you have a little too much penis to be wearing a dress like that?" Like Susan and Carol before her, Helena's story is not her own. Her characterization is limited to only those traits which most humiliate Chandler. I'm not the only one who was hurt and appalled by Helena's atrocious treatment on Friends. Her actress, Kathleen Turner, doesn't think much of her subplot either. In a Gay Times interview this February, Turner said, "I don't think it aged well," recalling of Chandler's father that everyone thought he was just dressing up. But the show's stars have rejected any notion that the series which rocketed them to stardom could possibly be hurtful or problematic, with Matt LeBlanc lashing out at those taking potshots at the series in a recent interview with the BBC, insisting that the show was about themes that stand the test of time, like marriage and family, and that he doesn't partake in risque humor. LeBlanc has had support from mainstream queer voices, too. In Butler's commentary, she cites GLAAD Director of Entertainment Media Ray Bradford as saying, "Helena, I wasn't what we hate seeing on TV by a mile, because there was nothing tragic about her story, except, of course, the years of humiliation and rejection from her family. In fairness, compared to the wealth of media featuring trans characters as dead sex workers and crazed killers, Helena is a downright realistic and enjoyable character. She's a great performer with a fabulous high femme style and a strong sense of self-assurance. It's everyone around her who has issues, and in that sense, her inclusion really did represent a step forward for television, holding a mirror up to 1990s American culture in all its unflattering glory. It's easy to look back and assume that intolerance is really what's being mocked. Led away from Chandler's mother to avoid causing a scene, Monica's father remarks, "I didn't even get a chance to pretend I'm okay with it," one of the show's most barbed one-liners. But to leave the discussion there is to ignore the deeper problem with Friends. Its realistic portrayal of cultural attitudes towards queerness ended up reinforcing those same attitudes, not driving society forward. Although female characters like Phoebe are allowed to explore their sexualities, ostensibly cis men like Joey, Ross, and especially Chandler are not given the same chance with their gender. Instead, they're ridiculed and shamed for the slightest deviance. In a C-plot during the one with Chandler's dad, Joey discovers the thrill and comfort of wearing women's underwear and gushes to Phoebe about how he's always wondered about pantyhose, while Ross is revealed to have taken on a female identity. During childhood, both are roundly mocked, with Phoebe even telling Joey that it's important for him to take off the panties and repress the feelings they give him. This is nothing compared to what Chandler undergoes, however. In the pilot, Chandler idly muses that he sometimes wishes to be a lesbian, the first of many plot points that suggest the character has transgender inclinations. Others include effeminate behavior after listening to a hypnosis tape, a classic trope in forced feminization, pornography, and implications that he only engages in manly activities like watching sports to gain acceptance as one of the guys. But rather than encourage their pal to explore his identity, Chandler's friends instead take every opportunity to deride his queer quirks. After Chandler tells Monica an embarrassing story about Ross, Ross retaliates by telling her about the time he kissed a guy. We can tell that a guy here means a trans woman, because Ross says she's a girl at first, and Chandler's defense is, "It was dark and he was a very pretty guy." Hilarity ensues, as Chandler's attempts to save face are deflected by the ever-potent comeback, "Whatever dude, you kissed a guy." Friends is not a toxic show because of its overt homophobia or transmisogyny. It's not a toxic show because of the more subtle ways it reflects the bigotry of its time. It's a toxic show because both of these things are true about a sitcom that won national acclaim as a wholesome, apolitical show while actively adding to the gleeful mockery queer people in America have to face. The collective nostalgia over Friends is still powerful enough to coax Netflix into paying $118 million for streaming rights, and as such, it still influences cultural attitudes about queer genders and sexualities. That's not a good thing for a show that peppers random episodes with queer-phobic subplots and throwaway gags. If you can enjoy Friends in 2018, more power to you, but be honest with yourself about what you're watching. A bunch of white people sitting around and making fun of whoever acts gay in between hooking up. Nostalgia might make things seem rosier, but make no mistake, Friends is a terrible show about cruel people who tear others down because of their perceived queerness, and its legacy will be forever tainted as a result. Samantha Riedel is a writer and editor whose work on transgender culture and politics has previously appeared in Vice, Bitch magazine, and The Establishment. She lives in Massachusetts, where she is presently at work on her first manuscript. Get the best of what's queer. Sign up for our weekly